Gonja Boyajiu.
Gonja Boyaji.
Boyajiu.
Gonja Boyaji.
Boyajiu.
Boyajiu.
Yes.
Gonja Boyajiu. This is my first Radio Vagabond podcast in English. First of all, I'd like to thank my loyal Danish listeners for telling me that it's okay to switch to English. And to all you non-speaking Danish people out there, if you like to improve your Danish skills, I've already done 18 podcasts in Danish. Hi, my name is Palabo. I am the Radio Vagabond, and I've arrived to Skopje in Macedonia. If you'd asked me like a week ago what I knew about Macedonia, I would probably have said, well, it's a country north of Greece and south of Denmark, and oh yeah, it's a part of ex-Yugoslavia. This part I know because the Eurovision Song Contest always refers to it as the former Yugoslavia Republic of Macedonia. Fyrom.
And I told you, do not fear on me.
Here in Macedonia, I've had my own private tour guide. A good friend who grew up here in Skopje. Her name is Afrodita Nestorovska. At one point before I came to Macedonia, I was writing to Afrodita, and I happened to mention Macedonia as Fyrom, the former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia. And I could feel that she got a little offended and wrote, "Do not fear me. It's Macedonia."
Yeah, because the real name or the constitutional name of the country is Republic of Macedonia. And because of a name dispute we have with Greece, there is a whole area called Macedonia. And one part it lies in Macedonia, another in Bulgaria. There is a part in Serbia, I think, a little part. And then you have in the northern part of Greece, it's Macedonia until Thessaloniki. But it is in the past, it's a history. And to thought about something in this age, century.
There's bigger problems in the world.
Of course, there are bigger problems. And to concentrate and stuff like this, for me, this is like a formality that should be solved in 2 easy steps or 2 hours conversation. But the official name in the country, as I said, is Republic of Macedonia. But as a member of the United Nations, so there we are called the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and this is supposed to be a temporary name. It's not an official name of the country, and that's why the UN has appointed a special envoy who is doing this the last, I don't know how many years, and is trying to solve the problem together with both countries. I'm not saying that the envoy is not good, but obviously the both countries are not willing to find a decision or a compromise.
It might end up being North Macedonia.
I'm not going into naming or renaming my country. I don't think that that's a clever thing for me. It will be always Republic of Macedonia, and I don't think that any other country should feel like how do you say, like invaded because some other countries call like this, because we have some intentions to go and to invade Greece. We have another problems to solve, I think.
It's always the Greeks. They wouldn't let us have the feta cheese. They won a lawsuit, so we're not allowed to produce feta in Denmark. Now it's called something else.
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Hey, there's a place in Australia. I met an Australian backpacker from Perth, and he told me there was a place south of Perth called Denmark.
Really?
So, in fact, maybe the Danish government should sue Australia for having a place called Denmark.
You should try.
Right now I'm in the center of Skopje, on this exact spot where Mother Teresa was born, the 26th of August 1910. The house is not here now, but this is marked by 4 corners, and there's a plaque where it marks that this is where she was born, and there's also a sign that in Macedonian says here was the house where on the 26th of August 1910 was born
Gonja Boyajiu.
Gonja Boyaji.
Boyajiu.
Gonja Boyaji.
Boyajiu.
Boyajiu.
Yes.
Gonja Boyajiu. Mother Teresa. The world is not hungry for more bread, it's much more hungry for love. And she said that, and this is the exact same spot right here in the center of Skopje. When I arrived to the center of Skopje for the first time, I saw beautiful, impressive buildings all over the place. You know, with pillars and decorations in sort of an old Greek Roman style. But all of it has been built in the last 4 to 5 years. And there were also statues and big monuments everywhere. It's difficult to describe how many there were, but they were practically shoulder by shoulder. Imagine a sculpture park, a statue park. That was what it was like walking through the city. First I came up from an underground parking garage at Mother Teresa Square. I saw a big collection of golden statues standing next to each other under an arch with statues of lions on top. Right next to it is a building with big pillars that houses the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. On the rooftop there are around 30 statues standing side by side looking over the city. And right next to it is a small pedestrian bridge over the river. On this bridge there are 15 to 20 statues on each side. And the whole thing with the statues continues on the other side of the bridge. I had this strange mixed feelings. Sure, it was beautiful and impressive, especially at night where the whole thing was lit. The impressive buildings with pillars, the many fountains, their own magnificent triumphal arch, almost like Paris. It's called the Gate of Macedonia. But it was almost too much, like sugar with sugar on top. It was almost like walking around in a movie set. Or actually, I had the same feeling when I visited the newly built Disneyland in Paris for the first time. It looked old-fashioned, but at the same time so new and crisp. This feeling was empowered by all the speakers around the city center that played classical music, just like they do in Disneyland. And then all the sculptures and monuments. Honestly, there were too many. It was like no one had the guts to say, "Whoa, don't you think we've got enough now?" when a high-ranking politician finds a spot where there's almost room for another sculpture. In this city center, I met up with one of the few journalists critical to the government.
I'm Zoran Richliev, I'm a journalist in Macedonia. At the present, I'm part of Balkan Investigative Reporting Network in Macedonia.
Zoran Richliev goes by the name of Richie, is a part of Balkan Investigative Reporting Network, BERN for short. On their website they write, BERN is a network of non-governmental organizations promoting freedom of speech, human rights and democratic values. We're in the center and there's a lot of, it looked like Greek buildings and very historical buildings, and then I notice a lot of monuments. I haven't seen so many statues anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's a pretty schizophrenic picture, you know, because the country is not very rich. It is poor actually, and we built so many monuments in just 4 or 5 years. It is the project, it's a controversial project called Skopje 2014. And it is a government project of changing the public face of the capital.
When the government announced their project, Skopje 2014, in 2009, the plan was to build 40 so-called structures or objects, and that they would spend 80 million euros. Since then, it's gotten way much more.
But now we built a database of the cost of Skopje 2014. And we found that at the present Skopje 2014 project costs with public money 642 million euros.
Richie and his colleagues at BERN have made a special report, Skopje 2014 Uncovered, that revealed how much they spent. And it's way, way more than the original plan.
That's only the price tags that we have documents for.
Yeah. Close to where we're sitting, their national hero, Alexander the Great, is sitting on a horse on top of a big pillar in the middle of a fountain with several lions all the way around. They call it Warrior on a Horse. At the same time, we can see 20 to 30 other sculptures when you're standing on this square and turn your head. They are everywhere. Also the old buildings. I was told that a part of them actually are the original concrete buildings, just with a new facade. And then it's in a style that's never been part of Macedonian architecture. But it is beautiful.
Well, it is only a facade. Old buildings are covered with styrofoam facades, and this is a style that never existed in our history. We never had classicism in our art or Baroque or anything. So it is kind of a changing of the culture. The whole point of the project is changing of the culture. What we missed through the ages, we are building it now.
It can be difficult to set a price on art, like how much does a statue cost? I spoke to more people in Macedonia that had the feeling that the artist was only paid a little bit, and then someone high-ranking in the system has taken a lot of money in their own pocket. And that this is the reason that they just continue to put more statues in the city center. Richie tells me that there's no concrete evidence of this.
Well, some of the artists are speaking, some of them are not, but there are strange payments all around. One hangar was rent to several people in the same time, and the rent comes to 40,000 euros monthly, for example, and normal rent should be 400 euros for a structure like that. So there are speculations, not proofs, that a lot of this money went to the private pockets. Because, for example, for the main monument, Warrior on Horse, which is huge, and actually represents Alexander the Great, but because of the problems with Greeks, we call it Warrior on Horse. Was paid just to one person, don't take my number correctly, but more than 1,600,000. And it's like his author's fee. And then he spreads the money to others that build it. So you cannot count the money simply.
Richie also told me about a huge scandal where a lot of secret recordings were leaked.
Yep, huge amount of recorded conversations. They say that more than 25,000 people were recorded in the last 4 or 5 years where they have the recordings. And a lot of them are journalists, a lot of them are politicians, and actually all the politicians.
The opposition got hold of the recordings. They said that there were more than 25,000 people that had been recorded the last 4 to 5 years by the secret police.
So these conversations revealed a lot of crimes that were happening. The recordings show a lot of conversations of the Prime Minister, a lot of court decisions fixed, a lot of elections of judges, a lot of manipulation of voting rights, covering up murders, like stealing huge amounts of money, like buying plots for Prime Minister, a building of an opposition leader, a huge building, complex of apartments worth more several million euros, was destroyed, and it is on tapes when the Prime Minister and the Minister of Connections and Traffic agree that they will destroy it with dynamite, just because they don't like him. But they are leaked, and they cannot be used as evidence.
The recordings cannot be used in a court of law, and the government say that they've been leaked by traitors that want to destroy the country.
They say the foreign services did the recordings to destroy the country, some traitors and others. But
they couldn't deny what was on the tapes.
Nobody still denied it. They say they are cut and they're edited and stuff like that, but they do not deny that they happened.
They also say that the recordings are forged, that they've been edited, and they never said what was on the tapes. After this scandal, the Prime Minister and others stepped down, but only on paper. In principle, they're still in power, according to Richie.
Even though there were resignations by the Prime Minister, his cousin, agreed on the Persian agreement and done, they still function as they are. For example, 3 or 4 days ago on the flooding, the prime minister was answering questions, and Nikola Gruevski is just president of the party, just a citizen. He's not a public employee.
No.
You would think that a scandal like this would be all over the media here in Macedonia. But it's not like that, because the media is controlled by the government.
It is one of the tools of the politicians and ruling party to give it is kind of ministry of truth. So the freedom of press is strongly declined in the last years. So no information, no criticism should be published publicly against the government.
Richie tells me that in principle you can start your own media, but you could never finance it, because advertisers would all of a sudden get a lot of hassle. As an example, Richie says that they would be visited by the government setting all kinds of unreasonable demands. Maybe applications to build something would not be met. Maybe they would be fined for something no one else would be fined for. Everything that would be difficult for these companies would just happen, so it would be easier just not to advertise with the new media. In the spring of 2016, a lot of activists have had enough, and they started what they called the Colourful Revolution. In peaceful demonstrations, they would walk around town throwing paint at buildings and monuments. And even though the government made sure to clean off most of the paint the next morning, I could still see paint on many of the new buildings and monuments. I'm watching a YouTube video from April where thousands of activists were throwing small paint bombs in different colors on the newly built gate of Macedonia. There's a part of me that feels that it just feels wrong that these new fine buildings and monuments were paint splattered. And yeah, it is vandalism. But this is the activists' way, non-violently, to say enough is enough, and that it's wrong that the government are spending millions on artificial makeup of the city, when the money could have been spent on improving life for the average Macedonian. In this video I'm watching now, there's something going on. There's a girl who's about to write some graffiti on the Triumphal Arch that moments before have been bombarded by hundreds of paint bombs. When she's written the first letter, all of a sudden there's a guy holding an ice cream that moves towards her and punches her in the face. Immediately there are several of her friends that attacks him. But then there are other activists that stand between them to protect him. So even in this heated moment, they have the cool to remember that this is a non-violent demonstration. A lot of the others are trying to get close to him to give him a good beating as retaliation for him just punching a young girl half his size. And if no one had protected him, I'm sure that he would be beaten up pretty bad. And it's not his friends that are protecting him, it's some of the other activists. Then you see in the video that they take him away and keep their head cool. Later in the video, the sentence on the building has been finished. It says, "Your building is ugly." I'll link to this video in my show notes. According to Richie, they probably won't get much result out of their Colourful Revolution.
The protest began last year on the 5th of May, the biggest protests. But nothing happened. The energy went down because the media did not publish the protest, or they published just some destroying vandalism that happened here and there. So the people are aware, but the media is the dam that stops the information, and the people, only the protesters know the truth. In the eyes of the supporters of the government, these protesters are traitors, prompt to foreign influence, and secret services from abroad are controlling them and paying them, which is not true at all.
He tells me that it's a small minority that protests, and he's absolutely certain that the government will be re-elected later this year.
The truth is created by the media. 95% of the media outlets are controlled by the government in Macedonia. So this is very important because a lot of people do not know the truth, do not know, for example, how much this Skopje 2014 costs. Even though we have the document, we have the database, which is online, English and Macedonian. They just don't believe, they believe their leader. It's all about the media. The media is doing the biggest bad job here.
Thank you so much to Richie for taking the time to talk to me. I'll link to the report Skopje 2014 Uncovered in my show notes. I've got more to share here from Skopje, so there's going to be a part 2. And in the next episode, you can join me when I'm being interviewed by 2 magazines here in Macedonia. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. You can also follow me on Twitter, The Radio Vagabond, and on Instagram, Palebo. These are all in English. My Facebook page, Palle Radio Vagabond, is partly in English and partly in Danish. My name is Palebo, and I gotta keep moving. See you.